Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Carnival of Randomness. The play's a thing this week. And luckily, we were going to do Hamlet, but Chocolate Shocks, I'm a vegetarian. And see, interruptions during the play. But we can't do Hamlet because Chocolate Shock's a vegetarian now. But I guess Titus Andronicus is out as well.
I saw that. Is it a real vegetarian thing?
Oh, no. I would say Titus Andronicus is a vegetarian thing.
I meant you.
But luckily, we don't have to do this. We have some very talented theater people here talking about their new play coming in December. Hello, everybody. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hey.
Look, everybody's here.
The gang's all here.
Yes.
Well, who is the gang?
Yes.
We got 4 people in front of us. From left, from right to
Or
left.
that quiet person over there, but you can't see us. So behind.
All right, I'll start. I'm Lindsay Warren Baker. I am the director of At Swim 2 Boys by MJ Savastano, who is sitting over there.
As you can see.
Yes, viewers, as you can see, look to your left.
Not my right.
Or your whatever. Stage right. I'm MJ Savastano. I am the adapter. I adapted this from Jamie O'Neill's novel of the same title, At Swim 2 Boys, and I am playing Doyler in the play.
Oh.
I'm Ted Wenskus. I play Arthur Mack, who is Jim's father in the play, and I'm also the sound designer of the play.
And I'm Shawnda Urie, and I'm playing Jim Mack in the play, and that is my only role in the play.
Lucky you.
Slacker only doing it.
I have to ask, when I had the title, all I could think of is I actually read books sometimes. I thought of Flann O'Connor's At Swim 2 Birds. Does this have anything to do with that?
That is where the title actually came from. Jamie O'Neill is an Irish author, and he is really familiar with classic Irish literature.
Flann's very difficult if you've never read him. I would have driven the kid to Samuel Beckett's The Lonely Ones, which is 32 pages and will take you 3 days. And Flann's work like that is really one of those you start reading and you go, I don't think I'm going to live long enough to get this done. Or what the heck did he just say? But he's very good as well.
Right. Not unlike James Joyce, I think.
Now, James Joyce is actually probably easier, except Finnegan's Wake, which
is unreal.
Unreal. I actually read it because what I did was I read a page a day for about 3 years. No idea what the hell. But for pretentious reasons, I could say, I've actually read Finnegan's Wake.
I'm going to be the odd one out. I have a hard time reading plays.
Okay.
I don't. When I was in high school, we tried... Well, I tried to read Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
I own the complete works of Shakespeare. I can't read it. My mind doesn't wrap around the breaks. Mm-hmm. Because when I read, it's like, I feel it has to be continuous motion, but when I see the different characters' names, and then sometimes there's stage directions, and it throws me off.
Well, I've read every one of Shakespeare's plays, so there.
I think part of that is that people have a lot of trouble reading Shakespeare because the plays were meant to be performed. They were meant to be seen.
Well, and that's another thing I feel about reading a play is that it's meant to be done in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Years ago, I went and saw at the Highland Bowl Comedy of Errors.
Yeah.
I tried to read Comedy of Errors and I gave up, but I watched it. I'm like, oh, okay, because it's the same for poetry to me because I don't know how it was intended. It's supposed to be read to you.
Right.
And I admit, I'm torn because there are these modern editions of Shakespeare in modern language, and I can understand if you read something and you don't understand it, what's the point? But I think it loses some of the flow and everything.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I don't know how you memorize that stuff.
A lot of it, the poetry of it makes it easier. The meter of it, for me anyway. I don't know.
I still have a hard time with it, so I'm not
I
going
can't
to
memorize through this, is why I keep notes. But what are the challenges of adapting this?
Really, this book is vast. It's like 650 pages. It's beautiful.
What's the gist of what it's about, obviously?
It's about Jim Mack, who is a young man sort of discovering himself. It's set in Ireland in 1915, 1916. So if you know anything about Irish history, the right before the Rising.
That's
one of the
fun
big
part in Ireland.
Exactly. Lots of rebellion happening. There's a lot of politics in it. And I think a lot of Jim's inner conflict is sort of reflective of the conflict that's going on in Ireland as well at the time.
So, I mean, simply put, it's a coming-of-age story, if you're going to put it in its most basic terms. And so Jim reinvestigating a friendship with Doyler, Danny Doyler,
Danny Doyle.
So it's about their friendship, their coming of age, their discovering who they are and what their relationship means in a time of tumult, not only the rising, but what's happening in the world with World War I and all that stuff.
I think a lot of this is because our climate now for politics is a little harsh, and I think these resonate. Obviously, you realize through history we're not the only ones. This happens a lot.
Well, that's the thing, and especially with the youth culture, they don't seem to understand all the stuff that's happened because history, I don't think, is really pushed much in schools anymore, and that's sad for me. But we have to realize that, yeah, what we're going through, every country in the world has probably been through at some point. So we're not unique, and to see it put into this, I think, and especially when you throw in the coming of age story, which everybody can wrap their brain around because we've all gone through it, and I think that definitely would help.
I know we should age backwards because everyone makes many mistakes. I look at it now and I go, it's like the old Faces song. If I knew now, and I go, like, why?
But I think also an interesting aspect of the story, too, is then not only these two 16-year-olds coming of age within this time, but also how within that there's parental relationships also within this. So, the relationship between Mr. Mack and Jim and what happens as Jim is coming into his own and what his father wants for his son and how much control does one have over their children? Not a lot.
I like the human element because I think that's eventually what people can relate to because we've all gone through the same things, that maybe we live longer now than like if we were in medieval times or something else.
And I think that's another thing about plays. You have to have something to relate to. Like, looking at Shakespeare, I couldn't relate to being a nobleman.
Right.
I couldn't, but a play about regular people going through regular things, yeah, I can get behind that.
I can relate to being a nobleman because everybody always, if you do your ancestors, we're all related to somebody famous. Elizabeth Balcony for you,
we're all 20 generations removed from Genghis Khan. Or something.
Like that. So it's always that type of thing. But one of the things why we started this podcast is we looked around and thought, there's a lot of these out there we never really wanted to do when we like. So you gravitate toward, just look at this and go, somebody should be doing this. Well, they didn't do it. I'm going to do it.
Well, so in doing research, when I first started reading this book, I fell in love with it. And then I started having like visions of the scenes of how they would happen in a play. And when I started to look if anyone had done this piece, had adapted this piece, I found one that had been done in Ireland, but I couldn't get in contact. I never got in contact with the individual. I just never got a response. So then I contacted Jamie O'Neill, the author, and said, hey, can I do this? And he was like, yeah, no problem.
I'm fascinated by how things are put together, and I wonder, how do you take a big book like this, try to grind, so we're not going to be there for 6 hours when we see this?
I was actually going to ask, what does it take to adapt a book for the stage? Because you hear about it like, best adaptation. What does that entail? I really don't know.
Well, I am not a master by any means. It's just that I think I've been doing theater for so long, and the scenes started to come to me, and I thought, all right, how can I best tell, what are the clear elements of the story? What's the play that I'm writing? I knew that Jim was going to be my main character. And I thought, what are the scenes that I need? What are the most important scenes in this play? And then I ended up with a really long play in the beginning, and it's been pared down and pared down and pared down to, its state right now, which we're hoping is a final state.
Because I've always noticed sometimes you have to just lock characters out.
Yeah,
I'll do a
hard.
spoiler for you. I actually read Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And I found out Judd had a wife in the book, and she's not in the film. And I think you could do without her, but that becomes the impetus of why he tells Lewis to bury the cat. Only I could go on from classic plays to Stephen King.
That makes sense to me. I felt
But because that was the whole crux of the book in terms of that's why Judd knows these things are coming back. Why does he do it? Because Lewis tried to help him with his wife, and he felt really bad about church buying it getting flattened by a truck. So that's why. So it's one of those things sometimes, but you can change the impetus to something else.
Sure, absolutely. And there's a character that actually is my character Doyle, my father, is a big character in the book, particularly for Mr. Mack and myself. And he was in the play originally, but as we started going through the evolution of this, we decided, we're going to have to cut him, but his presence is still felt in the play.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, especially when you're taking. Would you say this book was 600 some odd pages?
Yeah.
You
Short
take-
for an Irish book.
But you take like Tolkien's work, you know, and they paired. God, how many hundreds of pages is each book?
I don't know. I knew
Yeah.
somebody who took it
And-
really seriously.
And they
wouldn't
pared it
even
down into a
say that,
3-hour-long movie. It's like somebody has to go through it and decide: is this good? Is this worth it? Or how can we take a scene in this book that lasted for 3 chapters and make it a 3-minute thing?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how long it would actually take
It's
from
also
start to production.
recognizing that you're transforming it from something that you imagine in your mind to something that's physically on stage, right? So what how does that translate to an audience? What do you need to see? How much of the moment is required? So recognizing that it's a different genre, right? And so as a result of that too, at some point when you're adapting work, you have to, the way I like to think of it, depending on your intent, right? But the way I like to think of it is, am I honoring the spirit of the original piece, but am I also giving myself permission to take enough artistic and creative license to create my own piece, right? So the play that people will come see, if they then go read the novel, they're definitely going to feel that it's the story, but the characters may not be exactly the same, you know, because of what's been chosen to show based on what MJ has chosen to highlight in the stage version.
And I think as well, sometimes we just picture somebody in our head as a character. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter who you're
absolutely.
playing, you just look and go, that person's not what I expect. Or
Right.
It's like Ken Kesey did not want Jack Nicholson for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He wanted Gene Hackman. He probably was fine, and I think that Milos Forman told him to pound salt or something. Screw you, I'm going to do it or whatever. I guess, but one of the things that all of you, I don't know if you've ever acted before, Marcy, but from what you've done before, what are some of the challenges of your roles here? How do they compare what you've done before? And for you directing too, different projects, unless this is your debut. I don't know.
No.
Sorry, my bad.
No, it's fine. So the challenge, I think, for me with this piece, well, first of all, I love working on new work, so I think it's really exciting, and to be able to work with the playwright is always great because you can have those conversations about, okay, what's your intent here? What's the best way to shape it in order to bring out that intent? But also, you know, openness to idea of having an outside eye that can be helpful to the playwright as well. This is, it's an Irish story, so it's naturally going to be epic. so even in
it's
its
going to be silver, I hope.
yes, there's actually a surprising only little bit of drinking in this play, as what could be,
Well, I
right?
have to interrupt for 1 second, then I'll give you my one St. Patrick's Day joke. 2 Irishmen walk by a pub.
Just like to sing into the angels.
But because it is, because it's somewhat epic in nature, there's a lot. So how you get quickly from scene to scene, and also the play that MJ has created is what I like to call cinematic in nature, right? Where you're kind of crossfading from one moment into the next. Because we're doing theater and not film, you know, how do you create a theatrical crossfade? How do you get from moment to moment, keep the pace moving so that you're not losing any energy or impetus in the transitions between scenes? So that's, I think, one of the bigger challenges. But I think that also the way that MJ has chosen the scenes is naturally lending itself to that. I just have to use some of my creativity along with our designers to come up with how that mechanically can work well. But so this is probably one of the biggest shows that I've worked on, but having
we'll
done
see.
Hamlet also, I feel like that was a bit of a prep. It's like, okay, I can do epic, I can do that.
I was at Hamlet.
You were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So you did that. That was excellent.
I did, well, thank you.
I mean, I noticed from the set, confession, everybody, the only thing wooden about these actors is in the room. They were hauling wood up.
Yes,
We do it all.
There was a lot of wood.
And I do go to a lot of local theaters, Prize, and I enjoy how you do this. I find something neat about that. I just really like how you have to do that. I know it's probably a lot of work,
But it's also embracing the genre that theater is, right?
Yeah.
Let something be theatrical. When is it important to kind of let there be stage magic and hide things? And when do we just embrace the fact that people are going to be moving things on and off the stage? Or, do something to, how can we help forward the story through transition? There's also, each piece calls for something different. So what is the world of the play that we're creating? And how as an ensemble do we best do that?
What about your roles and the little challenges? Anything you've done before compared to this or not? Or
Well, for me, it's been a challenge because I've never done like a different gender on stage. And to play a young boy is just something that I've never gone through. So to get my head in that space was a little difficult, but as we're moving through the process, it's become more and more apparent how my experience and Jim's experience have been very similar. So that's relating it more to that and less concentrating on, so he's a 6-year-old boy in Ireland at the beginning of the 20th century,
He'd be 118.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah, just making it, again, relevant, not only to myself, but hopefully to our audience.
Well, I think that's the thing, that you hit the nail right on the head. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like, the gender thing. I don't think it really matters. If you, as the actor, can look at the character and say, I get it, then it doesn't matter if it's a female playing a male playing a female, old playing young, vice versa. If you can understand it, you're going to be able to portray that to the people in the audience.
Put it this way, too. You're sitting next to Hamlet.
That does help.
And you're sitting next to him.
I so agree with that thought, though. Absolutely.
Well, because it just hit me, like, who's the guy that wrote Legends of the Fall? I can't remember. Jim something.
Brad Pitt was in it, that's all.
No, the author.
I honestly don't remember.
God.
Look it up, we're not experts.
I can't remember. But anyway,
Anyone?
he was this old, cranky man who was like a hunter and an outdoorsman. In one of his later works, I know it's Jim something.
I don't know.
But he said for writing this book, he had to go through in the mindset of a 16-year-old girl. And he was probably in his 70s. I know it was...
Jim Harrison.
Thank you.
There we go.
I was going to say, it was pretty much one of his last works before he died. So this guy who is, would have literally no experience of it, had to go get himself in the mindset of a 16-year-old girl, but related to problems that he'd been through. And then it really doesn't matter, gender withstanding.
I think it's a human condition,
Exactly,
really.
yeah.
I think you can empathize a little. I hope I don't empathize with a serial killer, my thing. But I don't ever want to be, if I ever played some horrible role, and actually doing one of my little segues. I saw David Tennant in a movie last night called Bad Samaritan. And David Tennant, Doctor Who, and everything, plays an utterly evil person. And you think, he seems like a nice guy. It's called acting. You have to
acting, right?
And you hope, because I remember when you played Sylvia Plath, I asked you about, did this bother you at all? Like playing this, getting so emotional night after night? And I would think it has to a little sometimes. Just don't murder me if you play this.
But that's the thing. And somebody once said, you don't think Anthony Hopkins really walks down the street cutting people's hearts out?
Well, what he did was
He's playing a role.
he went into theaters, I guess. He snuck in, and what he would do is when silence was playing, he'd go up somebody at the end, did you enjoy that?
That's terrifying.
Because he's a weird guy. Everybody knows Anthony Hopkins is a weird guy.
And I can admit, I've seen lots of plays, you playing different male or female, everything else. I found something I just thought of. I don't really care.
Right.
I don't want if you get any of these dodgy people going, oh, you don't do that or whatever. And I'll tell them, they don't understand the history of theater. Playing all the female
I was going to say, look at the old Japanese theater. The old there were no women playing on stage. It was all men portraying every single role. And they've been, the old kabuki theaters. Those were hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And it was only men acting.
And I admit, I can't tell you when the first female actors came in then, right?
It really depends.
Do you know? Oh, here we go.
I used to know the year. And I used to know the actor. She played, I believe it was Desdemona. Is that correct?
Okay, that sounds right.
And I wish I could remember I used to know it, and it's not in my head right
That's
now.
why we're one of these random sort of
Yeah,
little things. We're supposed to be fun and not like all
Yeah.
Because we want 10 minutes from now, in the middle of a statement, you just scream out a year. Like,
I
yeah,
think
it's
it's
that.
about a
Like,
year
oh.
it was.
The other thing I want to talk about the venue a little, Muck, because I have sort of a history with it, I think. How did it start? Do you remember? Because I don't know if I was there just when it started or not. I'm not that old. I probably was like 15 by then.
So Muck started, actually Edge, the Sylvia Plath show you
That was-
mentioned was
yes.
the very first show that was done at the Muck.
That was?
Yeah, it
I
was.
didn't, and I remember because it was on the side.
Yep.
When you did it,
Yep.
it played on the side because now they've really redone it. It's grown a lot where I don't start wheezing because of the dust as much.
Yeah, it's a beautiful theater space now.
It is. It
Yeah.
used to be an old church or something. It's on
Yes.
Atlantic Avenue.
I was going to say, do we even
It's-
let people know where we are right now?
Yeah, we're in a theater or something with an Irish flag. And there's lollipops over there left over from Halloween. or something.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, but it's a really nice theater, and I really enjoy it. Plus, I always find parking.
Yeah, and just to put a plug in for it, it's celebrating its 10th anniversary next year. So it's
Wow, it's
yeah,
amazing.
It's
I've seen
been around for
on
10 years.
so
I've
many,
it's seen hundreds of shows, not performances, but shows.
And sometimes, even, I have to say this, sometimes the performers will make fun of you during the show if they know you. You're not getting away with that one still. And we'll leave it at that.
But I wonder, with the 10th anniversary, I wonder if there's going to be talks of something big for the anniversary, if they're going to do something, to kind of step up the game to let people know, hey, we've been doing this for 10 years, so here's a gift to you for keeping us around for 10 years.
Right.
Well, I can sort of talk to that because I know that there is a 10th anniversary planning committee that is currently working on stuff just as you stated.
Well, I love the
But
diversity.
as far as any specifics, I don't know them, but I know that there are things in the works.
I'm an insider now.
I love the diversity of the place, all the number of plays we've always seen. A little bit going back, one of the things, and I want to give a plug to your brother Mario, is DVC, which I think is really good with all the kids who do the dramas and everything.
Well, this is a DVC production.
It is,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Hi Mario, you ran off.
Well, he came in and then got
Want
shooed
to say
away.
a little
and
bit
ran away.
about DVC then for...
Certainly. DVC, I actually wasn't involved in the beginning of DVC. It started, I think this is their 18th year.
Wow.
I believe. It's been around a long time. And it started as more of like a drama video sort of club, and it evolved into theater that happened at Wilson Magnet High School. And then it evolved, I want to say maybe 9 years ago, into the community, involving community actors, and moving to the MuCCC. And so now it's really a conglomeration of Wilson Magnet students, Wilson Magnet grads, and community actors, designers. So it's become this really collaborative
One of
effort.
the things I like, I hope all of you have seen it, you should check it out. One of the things you do is sometimes you do plays involving songs from particular artists.
Absolutely.
And they're very interesting how you interplay that and make something out. You've done a lot of other things though as well. And it's always very challenging stuff. It's not your run around like See Spot Run or Leave It to Beaver type something or it's really all good. And now there's something about that going on the edge like that, I think, as well. It's like trying daring material, especially these days. You get people so inflamed about it, but you tackle the issues.
DVC from the beginning, part of its mission was to always provide meaningful plays and that were relevant and particularly relevant for young people.
Yeah.
So, and we've kept that throughout.
I like that because I think some people just try to play it safe, and it's like just make it. And I don't care if I agree with it or not. I think it's like, hey, you say your point, you have guts about it, it's entertaining,
Right.
and I like that. I like challenging material.
Thanks.
Actually, that's something I wanted to bring up with the young people. In this day and age, with the movie technology we have, I am glad theater is still existing. Not just in the big theaters, Broadway, London, San Francisco, Toronto, but like even at the local community level. And I've heard it in interviews from several different big name screen actors why they're going to London to be in a play. And I know Jeff Goldblum said, because it's about acting. I think it was Jeff Goldblum.
I mean, there's a big difference between theater acting and
Yeah.
being on stage,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
You know, like,
Yeah,
let's not forget.
there's different techniques for film versus stage acting.
Well, I look at it, I could do a cameo in some movie or what. Actually, I did in one, and I could do that. I could do one on theater unless you wanted me to play an idiot who can't remember lines.
I go, hello.
I have a story that's sort of related to that. It's almost the same. Years ago, I met Dick Dale when he appeared at the House of Guitars, and he was an hour late, he babbled, so on and so forth. Well, what got me is I'm looking, Dick Dale's back from the 50s,
He
60s.
had 100.
It's like in his 70s, now he's 83. So I'm sitting there, I look around, there's these kids, probably just in high school out of it. And I look at them, they're going, they're probably the weird kids in school. They're one of those ones, they don't follow the crowd. But I just got the kick out of younger kids just really, and I know at the drive-in for many movies I go to, I see these young kids go, and I like the appreciation of that, because you think especially in this modern age, everything's on video to see live theater. And I really like that, because I admit, I go to a lot of like RPO things and stuff like, it's all old people. I saw a concert really cheap out in the suburbs, and I don't know why anybody doesn't go to it. It's only like $10, really good, but it's all, I mean, I love it. I'm like, haha, I can beat everybody in a race here, and I'm like 30 years younger than everybody. Where are the young people?
Well, last year when we went and saw at the Eastman, the silent movie, The Cat and the Canary, it was packed. And there was a lot of younger people, a lot of college students there.
I think
see
they're
a silent
starting
movie
to
with a
really,
guy playing piano.
and
which I
not
never
only
seen.
that, but also I know the RPO has started doing a lot more with film. Like soon they're going to be doing Ghostbusters with the RPO playing.
Oh.
They're doing a lot more movies, turning
I
Kodak
could
all
just-
back into a
I
movie
could
theater,
speak
even
to
though it's
that.
not silent. But I think that's definitely drawing in a larger audience base by doing the Harry Potter films, doing Ghostbusters, doing
We have
they're
tickets
doing
for them
Star
all.
Wars.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going to one of those. Yep.
I can tell you, we were
They
doing
did
the night
E.T..
before Christmas last
Yep.
week.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Yep.
Right.
People were dressed up, but it was a mix. It was young
Exactly.
people
It's a
and
lot.
The
So,
Harry Potter ones.
I think
as well.
that's one way that they're starting to try and draw. My guess is, I don't have an in with the RPO, but my guess is that's one way that they're trying to expand their audience base by creating opportunities that potentially feel more accessible.
Yeah.
But I think it's a smart move, because if you get them in with something familiar and then add something new to it,
Yeah.
then people are going to want to go out and learn. I call it I branded it the Wonder Woman theory. After the Wonder Woman movie came out, all of a sudden you see a spike in people researching Greek mythology.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
the younger people, especially because Wonder Woman, and they were talking about the Greek pantheon, and people are like, well, who are these people they're talking about? So it's literally just, it opens all kinds of
Yeah,
doors.
ways
and all kinds
in.
of exactly.
Yeah.
It's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
You really find out some of this stuff is pretty cool too once you start reading it and getting into it and everything.
Yeah.
It beats playing that video game like Candy Crush or whatever. Yeah.
And I have to admit, I have no theater experience. I've only seen 3 shows, and 2 of them were because my sister was in them, with the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's great.
She was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with like 43 of the Osmonds. Seriously, there was Osmonds everywhere. And she was in Bye Bye Birdie.
Cool.
So I went and saw that, and the only other one I saw up in Toronto at the Pantages Theater, I saw Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
But that's it. I really should start going to more.
Well, wait, you said you saw
Oh,
comedy.
and Comedy of
Errors.
Comedy of Errors. So that's 4 things I've ever seen.
So you made a mistake on that one, not including it.
Hilarious.
No, I was Hamlet in high school. So I really
remember
was,
you
and
told
I
me
played
that
the
story.
town crier, a little puppet in a Thanksgiving thing, and otherwise not really. I'm acting here, I suppose. I'm acting like I know what I'm doing. A little bit.
For 4 years in high school, my homeroom teacher was the chorus director / musical guy, and I don't think he wanted any of us in the musicals because he didn't want to see us all the time.
Well,
So I never
I'll
did
throw a
it.
related plug out. My friend Amanda has a group called Girls Rock Rochester.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found, it teaches young girls instruments and everything.
Yeah.
And it gives them confidence, but it's also it is that gateway drug, like you mentioned, where they get into that. Then they might say, hey, this classical music's really kind of cool stuff. It really is. Read the lives of the great composers, people. You'll find out there's something to it all. And then you get to this and you find you really have a passion for it, like a Dead Poets Society without the bad ending.
Right. Fingers crossed.
What do you like them apples?
But I enjoyed that movie a little bit, the truth, but you get a passion for something. And I think some people, they go, I didn't like school, anything else, but something drives you. Theater,
Theater, yeah.
because that gets in, I have to keep my grades up so I can be in the theater to get the hell out of here, everything else. So I think that's really one of the things, too. And now, does it all go back to you to Shakespeare or the fathers of the Greek tragedies or anything? I have to bring up Shakespeare just because I like it so much.
Wow. So I started loving theater because of Shakespeare, probably.
I got to the Greek, I think they were easier to read at the time for me.
Was it reading it, seeing somebody perform it, or?
So I had older friends, and I was younger than them, and they were like, "Oh, you have to read this play. It's really interesting." It was Midsummer Night's Dream, and they loved, like, it was about the love story. It was the young lovers, and hearing my friends read this aloud, and just starting to get the humor, relating to it. I think it was the relating to it to these young lovers.
You played a lot of the characters from that. Anyone would you say was most challenging or not, or
in my life?
in Shakespeare, or,
Oh,
or anything
wow.
if you want to just include that.
I mean, Hamlet's always a challenge, even though it's one of the roles that
Well,
I've loved.
you had us thinking, because remember after that I said to you, okay, is he insane, pretending not to be insane, or the same ask about you a lot.
Yeah, I am insane, just so you know.
But I liked how you did that, though. You brought it out where nobody could really, you could interpret it, and I think that's one of the magics of the role. Anybody who did it could watch how many actors have played him, and you could do whatever you want and not be wrong, because he sort of leaves it open-ended. But for all of you, for being a challenger, what has been your most challenging role? Well, sort of, you don't have to do one, because I hate that. What is your most...
What was your most challenging role?
Jen, you want to go first?
Or what is your challenging project? So first, is it?
This one is up there, definitely, but it's an exciting one. I mean, challenge doesn't mean like bad, right?
Yeah.
So, this is one of them. Yeah, just trying to wrap my head around the mechanics of it, and also making sure, because not only is there a lot happening on stage, but because trying to make sure that the through line and that the story stays clear for the audience, right? Like, because it's also talking about some historical things, like as you were mentioning before, not everyone has a foundational knowledge and understanding of Irish history. Mm-hmm. So they're discussing historical topics, right? You know, so like, not everyone's going to know who these people are, or exactly what happened, or what is, you know, what the setting inherently brings to the story. So how do we make sure that that doesn't detract from the audience's experience, right? That they get the story, they take it, have an appreciation for it, regardless of what they come into the theater knowing about that time in history and about the politics and history of Ireland in the early 20th century.
I found that I fall into that trap a lot of times where I'll talk about something like that and assume everybody's read it or seen it. Oh, you didn't? And they'll just look at me like, what are you
Well,
talking
shit,
about?
there's 20 minutes.
It's like, I saw this. I don't understand. I watched The Dresser the other night. Doing live theater is a challenge too, because you can't do a recut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
You got to keep going.
Yeah. But any other roles or
Other challenges?
Sure. Just in general, in the
Yeah,
history.
sure. I think I have to confess, I hate that question about what's your favorite or hardest. I can ask you, and I don't have to answer.
Well, I was in Judgment at Nuremberg, and I played the German defense lawyer, Rolf. And so my character's role was to defend these Nazi judges, you know, who, I mean, talk about having to wrap your mind around a completely different role from experiences that you've not been in, you know, and in a German accent. You know?
We just had a lawyer on the podcast recently, and I could see the idea where I suppose the only way you have to sort of say, okay, it's my job, I don't like them, but it's okay legally though.
And that's the thing, especially with something like that, I guess the only thing that would keep me going is like, it's already happened. Like, I'm just showing it to other people, like I'm not responsible for it, and you hope that people can separate you portraying it from your personal viewpoints.
Oh yes, well just
You
because.
hope, at least.
Oh yes, well just because he was the defending lawyer for these Nazi judges doesn't mean that he was one himself.
Right. He may
So it
not
was
be a
easy enough
Nazi
to.
sympathizer.
You just had to compartment. Like any professional job, you compartmentalize. You know, it's like my job is to defend these people. That is why I'm here for. You know, the law has to be, you know, the process of law has to be upheld, and that's my role in it. You know? And that's me as the actor saying it, and the character as well. So
I suppose it's the same way, like I said, person might be bad at horror, but it's acting, it's a part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, somebody doesn't hit you with a pie or something who takes it too seriously afterwards. Or I found a lot of people who play nasty roles, they're actually very nice people.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite, because then they can let go.
Yeah.
Evil is fun. Yeah.
That's why you see all those serious actors that would love to do a Mel Brooks movie, because they could finally let go and just be goofy. Or, you know, look at Robert Englund. He's a Shakespearean actor, but everybody will forever know him as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
You know, like that. It's true, he is. And a lot of these people, like, look at like Christopher Lee or some of these other ones. William Marshall, who was a Shakespearean who played Blackula.
Yeah, exactly. I almost forgot about
Well, listen to his voice if you ever hear him.
Yeah, but no, Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, and all these terrible Z-grade horror movies is a very classically trained actor.
Or Patrick Stewart, also a Shakespearean actor.
Well, of course, he's Patrick Stewart. Sir, excuse me, Sir Patrick. I'm not
Sir Patrick.
I'm not going to deny that. What about for you? Challenging wise?
Challenging roles. My goodness. A lot. Sylvia Plath was definitely one of them. It was the second one-person show I did. That was tough because there were so many levels, and I had to do so much research to get into that role. Vivian Lee was another tough one. Lots of research. Hamlet, of course, very, very difficult. The first time I had to do it again. It was so tough. I didn't do it as good enough the first time, so I did it again.
Improved, probably. Yeah. It's like you'll be playing King Lear in like 50 years.
I love that. I just saw Martha Henry play Prospero. She's 82.
That might be my favorite play.
She was incredible.
Isn't Glenda Jackson doing
Yeah, Glenda Jackson's King Lear. Actually, she's playing King Lear.
I was going to say, I just saw that that she was playing King Lear.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
I'm loving that there's all of this stuff happening.
Yeah.
You go to Shaw, you go to Stratford, you go to New York.
And that's the thing right now. The Broadway scene is they're killing it. I mean, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
I know, it's neat. I mean, it really is. I think now there's all the classics. That's why they stayed around all these years. I mean, I think Shakespeare basically owes a lot to Ovid. He's around because if you read all like Midsummer Night's Dream, why is Shakespeare around? Why is everything you see pretty much a ripoff of Shakespeare? You're in like the good old 1990s like teen comedies. It's basically this is the Taming of the Shrew.
It's Shakespeare with beer and partial nudity. It really is.
So not really any different.
It's like how Titus Andronicus is his video nasty. You know, it's his horror film.
Right.
You know? I mean,
It totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you could chew your teeth on seeing that film.
But I mean, it's all based on the same thing, because when you get something that's that good that can survive the test of time for hundreds of years, everybody's going to borrow from it.
Yep. Well, it gets back because it's about the human condition.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we went off on a tangent. Maybe
Actually, this probably is my most challenging role, just because I haven't carried a show in a very long time, and it was really trying to wrap my head around the character and how to portray Jim in the most true way possible, and really get his arc through the whole show is really important to me, and something I'm still working on.
Oh, that's good. Well, I want to say, too, out there, support your local theater. You can see
Absolutely.
it out there. I mean, you could go to Broadway and pay $1,000 or whatever. But I can say there's a lot of very talented people, a lot of very...
And there's a lot of theater in Rochester.
I found that the diversity is amazing. In fact, plug you, Mary, hi. I'm going to see Rocky Horror Picture Show at Blackfriars. Well, not tonight because it's not coming on tonight. So,
but actually, a challenging question for you. Is this the first thing you've ever adapted?
It is.
Okay. Is it weird knowing that the original author is still alive and could possibly see this? Does it add any extra pressure? Because if you're adapting Shakespeare, the guy's long dead.
Right.
He's not going to be sitting in the audience or reading reviews of it.
but I admit I'd love to have adapted to Joycing and have him read them. I don't understand.
The fact that you actually reached out to Jamie O'Neill, do you feel any added pressure knowing that what if he doesn't like what I did?
Absolutely. What surprised me about him was that he said, I was like, well, I want to stay true to the story. And he said, do what inspired you. What are you inspired by? That's what I want to see. I want art to be able, if you love a piece of art, that if you're inspired to create another piece of art, that's what I want, that's my goal.
I think that's, and I've heard songwriters say that if somebody gets something personal out of it, if they can relate, look at the work and it inspires me to think or do something that's really nice.
Yeah.
You know, like something like that. That's really good, like that. I hope he actually checks this out
Yeah.
somehow.
That said, I would
You
probably
send him a
pass out.
video? Well, not you. Hope. You're on there.
Jimmy O'Neill.
Well,
Well,
sure.
and I'm wondering then at the same time, is this the first time his work has been adapted for the stage?
There was a dance made of this. You can actually find it online. It was by, I believe, a French company.
Bonjour.
Yes.
Crazy
And
gibberish.
in Ireland, at the anniversary, the 100-year anniversary of the Rising, someone adapted this into a piece that I couldn't. I tried to get in contact with them, but I was unable to. So.
See, and that just, it's interesting for me because now it's like, oh, because maybe he's sitting there thinking like, well, does my work lend itself to the stage? And then, you're probably thinking, am I going to do his work justice? So you're probably both, nervous to a certain degree, and then with all of, the actors and directing it, like I say, especially with them living, that they could possibly look at it.
And they might have, I'll have her adapt everything now.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And Ireland's got such a rich history of literature,
absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
Brendan Behan, Dylan Thomas, and people whose names I can't remember right now. So there's so many. Yeah, was Yates Irish?
I think he was.
William Butler Yates? I can't remember.
I think there's one.
I'm pretty
there's
sure
one.
I think I have a book of his that he did a thing on Irish
Beautiful,
fairy
right?
tales.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was
cool.
Yates.
I think I own that too. I mean, he's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite poets as well.
I'm almost
But it's
positive
such a
it's
lush history. Joyce,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like him or not, I've read them.
Well.
Whatever. I read Ulysses too.
You've warned me off of
Partridge
Ulysses.
with Lots of
I've
Young
read it
Man's
something.
good. Dubliners good.
Dubliners is
Dubliners, I like Dubliners.
Dubliners is good. I think they make you read that in high school, like Araby and other ones like there. I think so. I think we read Araby in high school. So we read Ulysses in high school. I would have loved to see my. No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Oh,
I
what
can't
was
even
that?
say. Jesus.
I read Joyce is recent for me. So.
No, I took that challenge. Like one of my friends quit. I actually took me 3 weeks. Couple chapters. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just remember the one line. Remember, redheaded women buck like ghosts. For some reason, that stuck in my head. And the one thing, and all it is I'll tell anybody,
having
little
trouble
spoiler
shifting.
time. Make sure you read Homer before you read it, because that's all it really is. It's a day in the life of Leopold Bloom. What's his first name? It's Bloom. That's why they have Bloomsday.
Doomsday, yep.
Because June 16th is when he wrote it. But it's a day in the life, and Stephen Daedalus and all that. It's basically the story of the Odyssey, him getting home, updated for one day in Ireland. And I know that because I remember some parts of it, but I still can't figure out half the book.
A lot of consequently, a lot of the places that Joyce wrote about are in this play.
And I guess they do the reading every year on the 16th, and they go to all the places. And I can't imagine sitting there reading it for 24 hours. I'd throw something in like from Dr. Seuss.
Well, to be fair, if you're reading it, you're probably not paying attention to what you're reading at that point.
You're falling asleep.
I was saying Joyce in high school. God, the stuff I had to read in high
Imagine
school.
if Andy
I know,
Kaufman
I know.
pulled that one out into The Great Gatsby and started reading it on his thing. But as we go around, we talk about what's going on, the back, everything. Let's go full circle then, and how do people see this? When's it happening? What times?
Great,
If
yes.
you want to cheat, I have the cheat.
We were given the piece of cake.
Yes. So we open on December 7th, and it's going to be at MuCCC. And evening shows will be at 7:30, matinees will be at 1 o'clock, and it runs through December 15th. So it's playing for 2 weekends.
And what's the sites and everything? You get tickets and everything if you want to get
You can
them
go
early?
to DVC Theater, that's with an RE.com.
Oh, the Royal Theatre.
Yes.
Everybody
And
is
you
nowadays.
can also find tickets on the MuCCC website as
Yeah,
well.
and that's
Yeah.
MuCCC.org.
And for people listening to this, there's going to be a link somewhere down below it. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll have it on here.
Links will be everywhere. You can find it easy. I'll take care of it.
625 Atlantic Avenue, right? And if you're coming from university and you hit 3 heads, you went too far.
It's
142.
142 Atlantic.
You edit that out later.
No,
I've been there. Well, I've been there so many times. I don't know what the hell it is.
We're gonna miss.
But you're right. If you hit the brewery, you've gone too far.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if you come the other way, if you go the other way, but I'm not coming
Yes.
the other way, so I don't really care.
If you come the other way and you hit Starry Nights, you've gone too far.
That's right.
But it's
Or
very
just,
nice theater.
or just
You
go
get
to
see
Google
more.
Maps and that'll tell you where
Yeah.
Exactly.
Use your GPS.
Yes, I hope not. For that, it's not that hard. But it's a very nice theater if you haven't seen it. Check it out. Check the artwork in there and everything else. And
And they're very, very supportive of
Yes.
local theater. Obviously, they're lovely people.
parking's nice too. It's one of my
Yes.
bugaboos wherever I go.
Free parking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ample free
Even
parking,
better.
twice
Yeah.
on Sundays.
Yes, but that's really good. I'm glad. It sounds like it's going to be very entertaining.
No, and now, just through this, it makes me want to go to the library and get this book.
It's
Do it.
beautiful.
It
It is,
does.
and that's the thing too, is that, knowing ahead of time that it was like, okay, prepare yourself. It's a very large book and stuff, but it reads surprisingly quickly. And it's like, because the language is beautiful and I think pretty accessible. I mean, yes, there may be some Irish terms or things that culturally that might be a little, but that doesn't prevent you from getting into the story.
Oh, so it's not like a lot of their authors.
It's
where
not like
it really
Chaucer.
is.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Actually, another one like
I-
that's Lawrence Stern who's an English author who's very tough.
Yeah, no, this really flows. I think I have found it very accessible.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, I'm going to hit up the library's website when I get home tonight.
They compare him to Joyce, actually.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
In a good way.
Let's see, how can I-
Joyce.
how can I-
is the good Joyce.
How can I properly compare it? Am I getting stabbed in the eyes? No, then it's better.
Okay, you know what? Because he did crossword puzzles, like Joyce loves his crossword puzzles and stuff, because there's all those puzzles in his work
He
that
should have
I've
written
never
a
found. Martin Gardner, anybody who's interested, find Martin Gardner online. He's a well-known polymath of an author, but he does a very, very interesting essay about word puzzles in Joyce's work.
Oh, wow.
Which I found none of, but I guess the beginning of Finnegan's Wake is God creating the world. So I've heard. Try it.
Shenanigans.
Well, it's indecipherable, so I guess.
Well, that's the problem. Like, it could be something interesting, and you always see those books on the things you must read before you die. Put that as the last one because it'll probably
This
kill
is
you.
not meant to be a criticism of Joyce's stuff. He's a very good
No,
writer.
the thing
All
is,
the
you
haters.
can be a great writer, but it doesn't always translate. Like for me, I tried the Canterbury Tales. Unreadable for me.
You like Canterbury's chocolates instead.
I would have had a Cadbury cream egg. but-
Well, it's Middle English versus
Right,
Modern
yeah.
English.
Right,
I mean,
and
it's
the weird thing is they had the translation. It was one of those dual
Oh,
languages.
okay.
So on the left side it was in Middle English, the right side it was Modern English. Still didn't help.
I had one in college, Cullican Olwyn, one of the old tales from the Mabinogion. And my professor was English, brought in her Welsh husband to try to pronounce these words.
Okay.
And it's like I technically I read it. Does it matter if I know what they were talking
I was gonna
about?
say, have you ever talked to a Welshman?
It's awesome.
Oh, I have.
It's awesome.
There's every word has 75 G's.
and L's.
Yeah. L's, G's, and Y's.
Yeah.
So don't worry, you will be able to understand this. You will enjoy it.
Yes.
And
And
that's
what would you like people to take out of this? Anything? Any
Out of the play.
you heard?
My God,
Not
I mean,
any of the
it's
sets.
It's a love. It is a love story. I will say that. It's a story about war. It's a story about loss, and it's self-discovery. And to me, a lot of the book is, it's about freedom of discovering yourself, about loving who you love, and about being able to do the things that everybody else can do in your own country.
Very apt for these times.
I was just going to say, I'm going to get modeled.
Well, it used to be a free country. None of
It
that
was
stuff
never
on
free.
you.
You got to pay for it. But no, and that's the good thing. In this day and age, you have to realize that yes, you still can lead a good, happy life, doing what you want to do. I think we've come a long way in terms of accepting people and doing what they want to do, to a degree. I mean, you still can't walk down the street, killing people. But,
Yeah, in my view, as long as you're not an asshole, I don't care
Yeah.
what you are.
And that's I think a very good lesson that people should take out of it is live your life, be happy, love who you want to love. Nobody, it's not going to affect anybody else's life, so don't let them.
You know,
influence you.
I think your life is miserable if you're unhappy if other people are happy.
I was going to
so-
say, wait a minute, what have you heard?
So on that, you want to add anything?
On that, anything else you guys want to bring up, talk through, throw out, plugs?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I hope that everybody comes out and checks out the show. It's definitely, with all of those themes, it's also a labor of love, and we'll love to have people in the
That's what I
audience.
have to add, that I know a lot of local artists, music, everything else, even though I have no talent whatsoever. And I find something I like about people I know is it's really, some people phone it in probably. All of you seem like you really have a passion for what you do when it comes out.
We
Thank
have
you.
to.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
to.
Life's too short.
And
I've been working on this for 2 years now.
Because I've seen some things that you ever pay a lot of money to see stuff and you go, wow, they don't be here or whatever. This stinks.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I could actually honestly say I've never seen any of the things that I've not liked, except when you pick on me.
and that's another thing about this is now I have something new I want to read that I never knew existed before
Yay.
tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very good.
And that's why I like to do this, because I like to find new stuff to read.
And come see the show. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
see how it translates.
Because I could
It
go
could be
on,
your 5th show.
that would be number
Yeah.
5, because I could go on December 7th, 8th, 13th, 14th, or 15th at 7:30, or the 9th or 15th at 1 o'clock for the matinee at the DVC. No,
Oh, come on. The TV.
I just look at
That's the name of the production company.
Yeah, the
It's
DVC
Muck
Production Theater
MuCCC.
Company, MuCCC,
See.
See.
at 142 Atlantic Avenue, not
MUCCC.
627 or whatever the hell it was. This is why I get paid the big dollar.
There's a parking lot right there.
There is a
too.
parking
There's a
lot.
parking lot. But in all seriousness, you can't, like I say, the links are going to be below. Check it out. Check out the book. Go see the play. Support the local theater. Support the people that are giving their time, their effort, and their passion to entertain you for a couple hours.
Yes.
So,
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Have a
And
great
we have
night.
to close the curtain on this carnival. Last pre-order. Wait till our next show. Thank you.
Thank you.